We are the One Story Podcast. We believe in the power of a story. Everyone has a story, and that story is meaningful. Your story can make a difference. Your story can inspire others. Your story is important. At the same time, ultimately, everyone's story is a part of one story, the big God story.
It's not what you said. You're not who you said you were. When are you alone? When will you come back home?
We'll do the Monster Mash. Happy Halloween, everybody. It's actually October 29th when this is coming off. But this is the One Story Podcast. My name is Drew, and I'm with Isaac.
And I'm wearing my Halloween costume right now.
He is. It's a weird Peter Pan outfit. So we got, this is episode 43. Thank you once again for listening, tuning in, and supporting the One Story Podcast.
Come on, we can do this, Drew.
Fly away to Neverland.
This is the take 3. I had a laugh attack.
Yeah, it might be take 4 coming up here if we don't get through this. Hey, we wanted to give you a special invite.
Exclusive invite.
Exclusive. December 14th, we are going to be having our first live show.
Say what? Bum, 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 bum. How does it go? Are you ready for this?
Something like that. Anyways, we're going to be...
Me and Drew are doing worship.
Bet you can't wait. We're going to do a live show. You're all invited. Whoever you are and you're listening, we want listeners there. We're inviting all our past guests, so everyone can kind of just come together, have a night, a kickback, where we just...
We're calling it a kickback.
It's a kickback.
It's not a party.
It's not a party. It's a kickback. And it's going to be a live show. We'll have some music. We'll have some of our podcasts, and then a little bit of hanging out afterwards.
We'll have some dessert.
And where's it going to be, Isaac?
At Southland Chino. It's at 5559 Park Place. Chino, California.
Yeah, we'll put this is the first of our announcements. It's December 14th, so it's a little ways away. But actually, it's gonna be here before you know it. And you're all invited. We want people to come.
Flyers on social media, so keep an eye out. If you're on social media, if you're not, we'll continue to mention this all the way up until the show.
And really, it would be helpful for us to get as accurate a head count as possible. Yeah. So if you guys can RSVP, we'll have a number on the flyer to RSVPs, just saying if you're coming and how many. So, yeah, we want to see you there. I think it's going to be a fun night.
It's going to be sick.
And One Story live show. Today on the episode we have...
Today on the One Story Podcast...
Zully Ruano. Is that
Ruano.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Let me go back to Zully Ruano.
So I met Zully in Cuba on the mission trip that I went on the beginning of this year.
Which you can listen about on episode 7.
We talk about that in the show. And she's missions coordinator, I think is her position at Downey Calvary. So we just had her on, and she kind of shared her heart and her passion for the mission field, what she's been doing for the past 10 years, basically. And specifically, she talks about Nepal. The
specificities,
specifically the earthquake in Nepal back in 2015, which was pretty
gnarly,
devastating, and
pretty gnarls.
They were able to go out there, and you'll hear the story. It was a really good story.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. I really enjoyed it,
and it kind of brought to light some of what else is out there than where we are in America. I don't know where you're listening from. You might be listening in another country or different parts of the world. But at least here in America, what I'm used to in Southern California, and I'm guilty of it, you kind of just get stuck in your own little bubble. Absolutely. And you're just concentrated on your own, like a selfish, lifestyle.
We're
basically
worried about your, the car, the house,
yeah.
whatever the wants that we have and desire. And meanwhile, there's people out there that are, she talks about it, being persecuted for the faith, or not even having the opportunity to
ever hear the gospel. Yeah. And then also, even within our country, it's not like you have to go out to another country to serve and love on people. There's a lot of need here, in our own backyard. So just to keep that perspective, to look at that, to pray for it, to just answer the call that God has for all of us. She talks about being sent. That's God is a God of sending, and we're His hands and feet. So, without further ado, here's the episode with Zully Ruano.
Nervous? Are you nervous? Are you really?
So I'm nervous now. It's weird. Like, sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, we'll just do it, and then sometimes feel the nerves going. So.
I think all because I was stuck in traffic. Zully, you're stuck in traffic. You've been busy with work.
Yeah,
and it's just
work's been pretty crazy lately. So
Lord, just fall upon us.
Yes,
come
amen.
on,
Please,
peace.
come.
So were you working today?
I was, yes.
At Downey?
At Downey. Mm-hmm.
Getting ready for the upcoming Cuba trip?
Getting ready for that. And
when is that? When's that?
February.
In February.
Oh, okay.
So I just got an email
quick.
from the pastor in Cuba, and I need the visa info ASAP.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, I told people to give it to me on October 26th, so I still have a week. Is that okay? So I'm waiting to.
Are you going again?
I haven't decided for sure yet. I think my dad's going for sure.
What does a trip like that cost?
What is it? 600.
It costs about 600,
and then
not
plus
including,
the flights.
right?
Oh,
not
okay.
including the airfare.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's not a lot. I don't know. That was the first kind of real missions trip I went on, and then that I paid for. So I didn't think it was. I mean, it's something.
I mean, lodging is included, transportation, food.
Yeah, everything's taken care of.
So
you just got to show up, and they tell you what to do. It was good.
You do it, yeah, and you eat everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say if you're called to follow, you're called to swallow. So you eat everything that they
except
offer.
the plátanos.
Oh yeah, they didn't have them last year. Remember?
No, they didn't because of the hurricane.
I told Drew, that was my fault. I'm like, Drew, eat some plátanos for me. We didn't have any.
He ate rice and pork every day.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good food.
Pork in all sorts of varieties. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of like Bubba. Bubba Gump or Bubba when he's explaining all the ways to have shrimp.
To shrimp, pork.
That's kind of how it was. Half pork.
Pulled pork, barbecue pork.
Yeah, so actually if you want
to
exactly. If you want to go back and you can listen to what was it, episode 7?
17. No. Oh yeah,
7.
Yeah.
That it was an episode that we just talked about the Cuba trip.
Dang, Drew,
from my
you get all kinds of
perspective.
airtime. You had 3 episodes.
Wait, so was it 7 or 17?
It's 7.
7?
Episode 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you should listen to it.
I know. I should.
Zully doesn't like the show.
Sorry, no. I promise. I promise. Keep you accountable.
Yeah, so that's how I met you, Zully. It was a great trip, a great experience, and just for me, I think everybody kind of maybe feels the same way. When you go, you think and I think you do, like you're going to be helping the people and being able to bless the people and to give to them. But really, it's
you guys are so blessed that I'm here.
Well, I mean,
no, I get that. No, for sure.
But like that's what you kind of why you're going, right? And then it's just amazing what it's like what you get to receive from them
and through
God.
That's exactly what I would be thinking. Hey everybody,
I'm here.
Yeah. So, but it's just, and that's the thing too. I think we want to encourage. That's what this episode's about. It's really talk about missions from Zully's perspective, and we just see what God can do and what He's doing outside of our bubbles, our city, our community that we're in, to just kind of look out a little bit to see what else is out there.
Yeah, and there's a lot.
Right. Yeah. So you've gone. I mean, what have you been doing for the past, or in your current role? How long was that you were in that?
9 years. Well, 10 years on staff at Downey, Calvary Downey.
Okay.
But 9 years in the missions office, and so that ranges from as far as my duties there, or ministry, booking flights, pretty much coordinating trips, and that means booking flights, getting visas, leadership training, and just getting people ready, investing in the people that are going on the mission trip, and then also taking care of our missionaries, making sure that they have all that they need to be on the field. And then just making missions known to our church body. I think that's one of the biggest things I wish I can do more of. So this is
Downey's a really big on missions, right? And all churches are different,
right?
But I think Downey really, there's a strong focus with missions, right?
Yeah. I think, to the degree that we have a missions department, a full-time missions coordinator,
right?
Missions pastor. So yeah, it's pretty big on missions, which is a blessing. Which is our pastor lets us kind of gives us that open space to go on mission trips. Whenever there's a relief trip needed, he'll send me a message. Zully, can we get this going? And that's kind of how this trip that we're going to talk about kind of happened.
How did you get into missions? Doing mission trips?
Working there at the
just in general, like when did God call you, like say, hey, this is what I want you to do?
Yeah, it literally, when I was 5 years old, I mean, literally back in the days, my mom was the missions director at a little small church that I was a part of. And so I remember being
where
it's a church in Cudahy. It's called Bell Baptist Church. And
Cudahy.
So small little
kind of by where
city.
Andreas Huerta's from.
Yeah.
Just kind of like in the hood,
Maywood,
a little bit Maywood.
Yeah.
And so through that I met a lot of missionaries, was involved in missions as far as learning about it, learning about the people that were on the field. And then as I grew, I would make little pamphlets about how to pray for missionaries. And so then just the love for missions started growing. I went to a Christian university, and that really helped, to Biola.
Oh, okay.
And so that really helped me understand a little bit more, especially about the persecuted church, just how to pray for them. And so then the Lord just started doing a work in my heart about that. And I just knew that the Lord had called me to full-time ministry when I was 16. The Lord used 2 Corinthians 5:15 as kind of like the verse that he used, and it says, and he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died and rose again.
Sick.
And so just the part that said
the Bible has the best quotes.
I know.
I wonder why.
It was inspired, remember? But so just the part that said that those who live should no longer live for themselves, like that part stood out. And so then from then on,
and that's
God.
but that's pretty heavy to, that if you want to follow that verse, I mean, you're really dying to yourself. I mean, that's what the Bible talks about, right?
Yeah,
selflessness.
Yeah. Right. It's just like you're not going to live for yourself. And so on that from that point on, it was, okay, Lord, how can I be used by you to share the gospel, to just, what can I do for you? And so that's when everything just started. I mean, I went to Biola, but the Lord provided. I mean, by the grace of God, my parents didn't have to pay a dime of that. Just God just provided. And then after that, a friend of mine told me when I graduated, I worked in another field for 2 years, but then after that, a friend of mine told me, if you get your teaching credential, God couldn't open the doors for missions that way. Teach English in any country, and it'll open up for you.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, let me pray about it and try it. And I did. I applied, and I had no experience. I literally had Sunday school experience, and that's what I told the principal of the school I eventually worked for. And he told me, teaching full time is more than Sunday school, and I'm like, I know, but just the Lord just totally opened the doors. I got an emergency credential, they called it. Back in the days, they needed teachers so much that even if you didn't study in the field, they would get you in.
Oh, wow.
And so I was able to do that, got my teacher's credential, and then had an opportunity to get a master's in school administration. But all of this, I didn't want to get it. It was just like the Lord just kept opening the doors. And I just kept saying, Lord, okay, when are you going to send me off? I don't want to go to school anymore. Like literally, I don't want to go to school anymore. And then God just kept opening the doors. And even during that time that I was teaching, there was a scholarship because part of my prayer when I graduated from Biola was, Lord, if you want me to go on the field, you need to help me pay my school loans, because I did get some scholarships and grants, but I also eventually had to get some loans. And so that was part of my prayer. Lord, you're going to have to help me, because I can't go on the field with $20,000, $25,000 in school loans.
Yeah.
So when I became a teacher, I just so happened to work at a low-income school, and the grant that they told me about was, if you work at a low-income school, the government will pay your school loans. And I had no idea that existed, so I applied for it, and all my principal had to do was sign off that I worked in the city of Maywood.
Wow.
Amazing.
And my school loans were paid off.
Holy smokes.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
But that's totally the Lord.
That's God.
Yeah, because you prayed for that. That was answered prayer.
Yeah, definitely. And from
because you can't,
place I didn't know.
Because you can't go do a mission trip where you don't know if there's any money in, you're just going, you're just giving yourself and your time and with no compensation. So it's like,
and it's like, not responsible to leave without, with that debt too. And so God totally provided. So from there, I was like, okay, Lord, you're doing something. And,
what'd you think at that time?
When that happened, I was just like, okay, God, I'm ready. So you're paying my school loans.
So you grew up in the church, but like your relationship with God was already like strong and.
Yeah, well, it seems like it because at 16 you kind of made a commitment or knew that you were going to be in full-time ministry. Yeah, that's pretty early on to.
Yeah, because at that time I just felt like I wasn't really. I knew I was a Christian, but I wasn't living like a Christian right up to when I was 16. I grew up in the church, but it was kind of like a routine. It started bothering me that I didn't pray like I should have. Like it started, I don't know, there's just something in my heart that I'm calling myself a Christian, but I don't even pray. I don't read the Bible. But all my friends know I'm a Christian, but they don't know why, or they don't know exactly why I'm different.
Sounds like my life that I'm living now.
Oh. Wait, what? Wait, what part? And so, so then at 16, that's when I started reading the Bible because I wanted to. I started praying because I wanted to. And then during that time is when God gave me that verse. And then just looking back, just kind of seeing what God has done. And when I left teaching, the Lord was just, it's so funny, the Lord just told me, Zully, you need to pay off your debt again, right? But just like, credit card, my Macy's credit card or, those kind of things. And so for a year, I was just paying off my debt. Everything was on my debit card and I wasn't sure why, but kind of excited, like, okay, God, I think you're finally sending me. And so right when I was ready, all my debt was paid, my principal comes to me and says, Zully, I had my master's already. And so the logical step was you become a coordinator, and then you become an assistant principal, and then you become a principal. And right when I was making the decision to resign, because I just felt like the Lord was already telling me to leave, the principal comes and says, Miss Ruano, I want to offer you the coordinator position, and just go back to your church and see if you can do it, because I know you're really involved, but talk to God about it. And that's what she told me. And then I'm like, sure, I'll have a conversation. But
I'll hit him up.
I think I know what he's going to say, but I'll hit him up anyway. And so, so then I was just, I went back home and I thought, oh my goodness, like, wow, coordinator, then I could become an assistant principal. Yeah. The pay is going to be really good. But I just couldn't, I knew God was sending me out already. And I just couldn't, like, what I was thinking was, when I'm before the Lord, am I going to tell the Lord, you know what, Lord, I didn't take your calling because I was going to get paid more doing this, Wow. I just couldn't help. I just couldn't see myself doing that. So I resigned. I was tenure. I was making really good money. And so somebody literally told me I was crazy, and they told me do a leave of absence, But I thought that's
because they're like, just try it out, and just if you don't like it, then you can go back.
Yeah. And I thought that's kind of, I don't know, that's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
No, for sure.
Right.
So that's not the leap of faith that he was calling you to do.
Yeah. So then that's when So I knew I had to resign, and so I did, and I taught 1 year at the private school at my church. And so then just 1 year, and then just a series of events led me to the missions office. So after I taught 1 year at the church, then the missions office position was open, and that's how I got into full-time ministry. Like finally, after I don't know how many years, and so it was worth the wait. But God had plans. Put me through all of that. Even though I didn't want to go to school, I didn't want to, I was like, that's enough, Lord. But it was all in God's perfect plan, that now.
So that was that's 9 years ago, that when you started in your current role, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So within that time, how many trips would you say that you've gone on?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, just to be exact, but
I guess maybe about 20 or a little bit more than 20.
Yeah. But you're the one that's planning them all and coordinating from here, right?
Yes.
All the ones that are going on. Okay.
Yeah, I coordinate them.
And you wanted to talk about Nepal because you did that. When was that?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the background of that?
So in April of 2015, Nepal had this huge earthquake, a point something, 7.8.
7.8.
Dang.
8 earthquake.
Wow.
But then the interesting thing
How big was that one in Japan? It was like the same thing, right?
It was a 7.
It was
something.
huge. Okay.
I mean, at
Yeah.
that point,
Yeah, it doesn't
it's-
matter.
Well, I mean, it does, but
after,
it's
but like
huge.
after 7, after like a 7-pointer, it's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, but the crazy
but-
thing about the one in Nepal is there was a 7.8 earthquake, and then about an hour after, there was 2 large aftershocks. So after the 7.8, there was a 6.6 and then a 6.7,
Dang.
wow.
like kind of back to back.
Yeah.
So
And
It
Nepal
was
is in
crazy.
what part of Asia?
it's in between India and China.
Oh, okay,
So it's
okay,
right
okay.
in the middle.
In the
Okay.
Himalayas?
In the Himalayas.
Got it.
Yeah, when we were there, it was really neat. You could see Mount Everest from the
Oh,
back.
really?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful. But yeah, it's a small country. But Nepal, 97% of the people in Nepal have never heard the gospel. And I think that
Wow.
was one of the areas that I got really excited about when we found out that there's a possibility for us to go there, was just to think that we were going to have an opportunity to share the gospel with people that have
They've
never
never heard
heard.
it.
Wow.
And that's literally
That's
what
amazing.
happened. Yeah, I knew there's a Calvary Chapel there and there's a Bible college there.
So is that how... That's what I was going to ask, if there was any connection to begin
Yeah.
with. So you guys already knew there was someone there that
Yes.
you could at least start
Mhm.
with.
Right. So when the earthquake happened, my pastor sent me a message and Zully, do research, see if we could send a team out. So then I did, and I actually just coincidentally knew the pastors that oversaw the ministry there. So I got in contact with them, and so they started sending me information. This is what kind of a team we need. We do need help. Literally, the houses were all destroyed. And then just the fact that people, they haven't heard the gospel. And then on top of that, they had this huge earthquake. So the need was great. The opportunity was huge to not only help, but also to share the gospel at the same time.
And you guys went to like a specific city. What city did you go into?
Well, we were mainly in Kathmandu,
Okay.
which is the capital.
I thought that was just like the punchline of a joke. Kathmandu.
It's a
Where
real
is
place.
that? Kathmandu?
Yeah, no, it's an actual city. But what happened actually was we went to a village in the outskirts of Kathmandu. And so it was about 3 hours drive, 3 hours and a half.
Dirt roads.
Dirt roads. When we came back, it was very scary, but I'll tell you guys about that because I literally thought I was going to die.
What was the
But-
weather like? Because it's cold over there, right?
When we got there, it was
What time of the year?
we went in June.
Okay, so summer for us.
So summer for us, and for there, it felt like spring,
Okay.
even though we went. And I don't think we really understood what time we were going because we were going right before monsoon season.
Uh-huh.
And that is rain like you have never experienced in your life, and we were able to experience it. And that was another time I thought I was going to die in Nepal because it was just crazy rain. But so we ended up in a city called Sikre, and it's a little village about 3 hours and a half away from the main city, from Kathmandu.
Mm-hmm.
And this city has about 100 people in their village, and every single household was without a home after the earthquake.
What were the houses made out of? Do
They're
you know?
made-
in my mind, I'm thinking of like maybe like brick.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Houses or-
Brick,
okay.
mortar,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't full on cement. It was just like brick
Mhm.
and
Stacked
mud
together.
and-
So
yeah.
those just came down.
And those just came down. Like literally, if somebody just smashed each house, and
Dang.
we saw houses with only a doorway standing. We saw 2-story houses with obviously converted into 1 story, but you only saw like the top of the roof, just kind of sitting on the
On the
ground.
first floor. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How many
it's
were with?
sad.
How many were with you? Your team?
There were 7 of us.
7?
7.
Okay.
And so the reason why I went, normally on these big relief teams, we only send guys to do construction and that kind of thing.
Is that
but
what you guys went there for? Just-
we did to help with just to clean up, remove the rubble. And so that one of our goals was to do like makeshift houses and just temporary housing.
Shelter. Just to
Mhm,
provide some
just
shelter.
because of the monsoon season that was literally weeks ahead.
Coming,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, and so but they asked if women can go too, because the culture is that men cannot minister to women. Like you need to ask permission to their husband if you can speak to the women, or to the chief of the village if you can speak to the women. So then that's when they asked me to go, if I would go with them, so that I can minister to the women as a woman. And so and then even to get into the village, part of the culture is you need to speak to the chief and to let them know why you were going. And so our group was going to be the first American group to be there, and the first Christians to be there as well. So it was kind of like the first of everything for those people in the village. Yeah. And so they, the pastor that found that village, he had to speak to the chief first and let him know that a team was going to come, and that team represented Jesus, the Son of God. And so he shared the gospel with them. Wow. And it was a great opportunity to share the gospel. And they were just like kind of first amazed that people from the United States, that they were going to come out of their own will to help them. And then they were interested in that we were representing a God that we believed in, and that we told them, our God wants to reflect his love towards you, and we're going to bring a team that's going to be his hands and feet for you. And they were very open to it. They were very open to it. And so that's how we got in to the village. And
so is the idea with, well, maybe it's different everywhere, but a mission trip, is it, we're going to go, or a relief effort, we're going to go and just help. And then as the opportunity presents itself, you share the gospel. Yes. Like if someone says, well, why are you doing this? And then you can say, well, because. Yeah. But with this, it's almost like up front.
Yeah,
like
we had to be
shared to the chief or whatever. The chief,
right? Because he was asking, why are you guys coming? And what are you going to do? And like very protective of his people. Right. But I also think that the pastor saw it as an opportunity to share the gospel, and also it gave us the freedom to share the gospel because the chief knew about it. So we weren't doing something kind of like undercover. It was something that the whole village knew that.
Do you know what their beliefs were or are?
They are Hindu. So actually, we encountered some people that had a little bit of different religions, but the majority were all Hindu people. Yeah, we were just reading about that there's 1 billion Hindu followers. Dang. And it's one of the top religions, I think the top 3 religions. And so
in the world?
In the world, okay. Yeah. So 1 billion people, imagine. It's
a lot.
So a lot of people.
So when you go there, and they speak a different language, obviously.
They speak
do you guys
Nepali.
Have a translator? Or?
We did. So some of the students from the Bible college came with us, and so they were going to be our translators throughout the whole trip. And so we only learned, just how to say hi.
Out of the Bible college that was in Nepal.
They're in Nepal, in Kathmandu. Okay. Yeah.
What was that? Because Kathmandu is probably the metropolitan area.
Yes.
What was that? The state of that? City at that time.
They did have buildings that were destroyed, but it seems to be that most of the outskirts of Nepal were the most destroyed. I mean, literally no house standing in a lot of these smaller villages.
Just because it's more primitive?
I think so.
The building of it?
Right. I don't think the infrastructure is as, I guess, advanced, as the city was.
Yeah. What about the health of the people? Like, did people die? And like, what was that like? They did say that 9,000 people were killed. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 9,000 people were killed on this. And then obviously thousands more were hurt and injured.
What about in the village of 100 that you went to, which is like, if you lose one person, I mean, that's, everybody knows each other. And
right. So nobody died in that village, but we did visit a lady. Actually, a couple of them were hurt. Some of them had stones and, parts of the house that fell on them. Dang. We met an older lady that her hip was broken, but she was like in her 80s and her hip was broken. And it was just a sad picture. She laying.
Walked it off?
Well, no. No, she didn't. No, she was laying on the floor and she was so weak that, when you see those pictures of flies just landing on people's face and they don't even have the strength to like move, just shake them off or whatever. She was just kind of laying there and because her hip was broken and her
probably all kinds of pain because I take it they don't have any like medical aid.
Right. Yeah. No medical aid. And so, like that lady's family members, her daughter-in-law had an arm broken. And So a lot of people were in that state. They were hurt, had some broken bones because of things falling on them.
What was the time frame like from the earthquake to when you guys got there? How long after?
So the earthquake was April 25th. We got there in June 8th or June 9th.
Oh,
so
so it had already been
just
couple
a
weeks,
few
2-3 weeks,
or April, May, June, June. Yeah.
Don't let Isaac figure out math or
April, May,
seasons,
June.
months,
money exchange. Yeah.
So yeah, so 2 months, about 2 months after.
2 weeks.
I know. I actually doubted myself. I'm like, wait, April, May, June. And so yeah, so we went pretty
you got
fast.
this, you got this right, Drew?
Fresh.
Yeah.
You got this. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. You just click the mic off.
You guys are funny.
Yeah. So
So just a few months after the earthquake happened, so we had to move fast, get our funds in fast, and I think honestly during the trip I just thought, Lord, why
And
do
you
we
were
do
the
this?
first, and you're the first responders to that village.
To that village, yeah.
And how many other villages do you think were in that area, like in Nepal? There's probably a ton of them, right?
I don't know how many, but thousands of them. Yeah.
And a lot of them probably never got any relief, right? I could assume.
I could imagine. I honestly don't know, but I know I was reading other testimonies of people that they also were able to go to villages and share the gospel, and they also said the same thing we said. People had never heard the gospel before, and because of the earthquake, they were able to go in there. So it's kind of that, the Lord knows why He does those things. It opens up the gospel.
What kind of response were you getting how did you even present it to?
Yeah, so it was really interesting when we first got there to the village. They had told us ahead of time, you guys are going to camp out, so bring your tents, bring your sleeping bags, just bring things to live outdoors and on your own. Right. And so I think I've only camped like once or twice. Really? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to camp out in Nepal. We'll see.
Not a lot of camping going around in LA.
No, not really. Not really. So I just said, okay, Lord, you're going to have to help me. I actually had to buy a sleeping bag, that kind of thing. So, so anyway, so we knew that we were going to get ourselves into something different than a normal missions trip, I guess. And so as we were taking all of our things into the village, we arrive in the village and we see people just staring at us, and you could tell they were kind of wondering, like, who are these people? Why are they here? They're in our land. Well, who are they? And we were just getting the weirdest stares, and people were just telling us namaste, namaste, which is their greeting. And so
I thought that was just a yoga thing.
No, it's actually namaste. Namaste is a real thing. It actually means like hello to the divine in you or something like that. So because they think in Hinduism, they think everything is divine. Like you're a god, but so is the horse, and so is the worm, and so is the cow.
There's life in everything.
There's life in everything, and you're one with all the other gods. Yeah. So namaste kind of means that, like they're saying hello to the holy in you or the divine in you.
And they have like multiple gods, right?
For them everything's a god, pretty much. Yeah. And so anyway, so we're coming into the land, to their village, and they're looking at us really weird, and so we start setting ourselves up, and it's funny, they're all just kind of staring at us, with our suitcases and our tents, and just kind of wondering why we're there. And so we set up everything, and that first night there's no electricity because the electricity all went down, so by 7 o'clock, like we have to be in bed because we're still trying to figure things out. Yeah. And so then the next day, that's when we start with the translators. We start introducing ourselves to the people, and then we just start visiting houses and getting their information and what happened. And we had a nurse with us, and so the nurse would kind of see if any help was needed. Any medical assistance. Right. And so, so we just started speaking with them. And as we were helping them clear out their house, then our translator would speak a little bit more with them and kind of open up the opportunity to share the gospel. And at some point during that week, we were able to do like a little VBS for kids. Like we went prepared to give them. But I realized that these kids had no knowledge of Jesus or God. So it wasn't like let me tell you a Bible story. It was... I need to kind of set a foundation because they had no idea. Like if I said Jesus loves you, they're like,
who's Jesus?
And it was the first time. I've done a lot of VBSs before, but this was the first time that I just kind of had to step back and like, Lord, you need to like give me wisdom here. How do I even share like Jesus in a way that the kids will understand from nothing, no background information or anything. So we talked about creation, and, the God of creation is the God who loves you and who sent his son Jesus for you. And this is what Jesus is. And so, but really during that whole week, we were just loving on the people. We made sure as a team that we would love each other as a team too, because they were watching us. And
did they ask you questions?
Well, they were asking us like, why are you guys here?
Did they ask you questions about your faith? Or
once they asked us, why are you here? Then that kind of led to that. And then it just they're just kind of really listening.
Okay. Because I would wonder what kind of questions they would have. Yeah,
I think their main, question or thought was, what are Americans doing here? Why are they helping us? And then that kind of allowed the translator to just kind of expand on why we were there. And then really it was about, I was carrying babies throughout the week, and the ladies little by little started, feeling a little bit more comfortable with us, sending us food, and we truly had to follow that. If God follows, you swallow. And it was just like, okay, we're gonna eat just a curry and all this, different foods that we're not used to.
Was it good?
It was good.
It sounds, I don't know. It sounds good.
Yeah. We had a lot of lentil soup with white rice. They call that dal. A lot of curry, like just different types of curry.
How long were you there for?
We were there for, I want to say about 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were there. We were in Kathmandu for like the first 2-3 days, and then a full week, Monday through Friday in the village, and then another 2 days in the city. So
okay.
Yeah. So it was just really, really interesting. But as we were there and just helping the people, I just was blown away just by the fact that, we're here with people who have never heard the gospel. Like, I've only heard of that, but I never
you experienced it.
Was there with people who for the first time heard about Jesus. And that was really cool.
Did anybody accept the Lord there?
Well, our translator was sharing the gospel left and right. Just like he would kind of use us, like, they're here because of this. And we would be hugging the ladies as he was sharing that with them. And so when we were there, they didn't accept the Lord right there with us, but they did follow up. And so I know that they're having Bible studies and that kind of thing after. Wow. Like, they're open for this new God that was real.
Do they have the Bible in their language?
They do. They have a translation. And they actually have this other audio. It's called a Proclaimer, and it's an audio Bible, and it's a solar panel. It has a solar panel connected to it. So we gave it, we had it. And so it was really neat because we would wake up in the morning and they had the Proclaimer on, and it was in their language. And we were like, wow, they're listening to it.
Think about the person that actually did that, that took the work to translate it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think of the time that it would take to translate the whole Bible.
Well, all the work that people are doing across the world of doing translations.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because it's not just that language. It's Chinese and whatever. I don't know. My knowledge of languages are limited. Stopped at Chinese.
There's a lot out there.
And then, we were also able to visit a Christian church. It was one... like a few, there aren't obviously very many Christians. It's like less than 1% are Christians or evangelical Christians there. But we had to hike. That's when we were getting bit by leeches. And I only saw that in movies, that I thought, oh, wow, you actually get bit by a leech and it's okay. You don't die. And so we had somebody
Where were the leeches though?
Well, since it was raining, the leeches were just kind of on the side of the road.
And they would jump on?
And they would kind of attach. Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Crawl up you?
They would, I found one tucked into my pants, like I had rolled.
Oh, no.
But it had, it was kind of gross because it sucked my blood.
Oh,
and I was like,
no.
Oh, you guys, here's a leech. Should I take it home? What should I do? But it's like my victory mark there. Like, But we had a guy that was bit by 8 leeches, but he jumped into the river, and I think they're all over in the river.
Wow.
But, and that was another thing. It was a rough trip. We didn't shower for a couple days. We had squatty potty, and then it was it was just like very not what we were used to.
Yeah.
But we ended up hiking about an hour or so, maybe about 2 hours, to find this church. And so we found out that this church, the pastor was being persecuted because and actually I read this with other people too that visited other Christian churches, and they were blaming the earthquake on Christians.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Because they said that because they weren't following what they believe, the gods got upset, and the gods made this earthquake happen, and it was all the Christians' fault. So then what they said was, because everything is a lot of the countries in Asia and pretty much non-Western countries, it's all about collectivism. You do everything as a community, you work together,
which can be good.
Yeah, which can be good.
That's a good concept for sure.
So,
but that kind of trips me out of like, was that like, you got to think about like the time like of the Greeks and all that stuff, of all the gods, and just not really comprehending natural science or anything like that we can understand now.
Right.
But they're living in the present with us, but they still have that way of thinking.
Yeah. And they truly believe that too.
Yeah, but there's also, I'll just push back a little bit. There's people that are Christians that say that God uses natural disasters to punish.
Well, that's wrong.
Well, right, but but I mean, like,
who are these people, Drew?
It's not just
kidding.
it's not just people that are
different context.
Well, but the thing is, it's like you got to think that for them, there's probably no such thing as not believing in whether it's their gods or our God, and like God is absolute. For us, we have the luxury of thinking for ourselves and coming to our own conclusion whether there's a God or not. It's like for them, like, no, there's a lot of gods and you don't believe in the God we believe in, and therefore we're being punished.
And they punished them. So what they did to that Christian church was they said, they normally help each other with the crops, and they grow rice, and they have plenty of rice field. And so they said, we're not going to help you. We're not going to help your family.
So they were persecuted.
And so, so they had to do everything on their own. Their church was also damaged in some way. They were beating up the pastor, hitting him, beating him up and saying, this is all your fault. This is your family's fault because you're not believing in this and what we believe. And so I got very emotional when I was at that church because they were singing hymns in their language. They were singing songs that we sing at church in their language. And I was just looking at the church.
Hillsong?
Hillsong. Hillsong in Spanish. I'm just kidding. But and then I was looking at the pastor and his family, and I just thought, wow, there's so much more to being a Christian that we know. It's like you're really standing up for what you believe in, no matter the cost, because he didn't turn back. And
that's the thing. I think the church looks so much different in America than we even know. Like especially for me, I'm like, this is my world. Give me like a circle 10, with the 10-mile radius, and that's my world. And you just forget of like what people are experiencing, what people have to do to for the gospel to reach them, and then for them to even practice it.
Right. Yeah. And people sometimes ask, why would you spend so much money to go to a country like Nepal? Why don't just send them the money? It'll probably be used better. But first of all, the Bible says to go, right? And just remembering when Jesus saw just all those people, when he said, the harvest is plentiful, but he didn't say pray for the people. He said pray that the labor, that laborers would go, that we would send laborers, and the Lord,
or he didn't say just send money.
Right.
Or don't give them money. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
He said, go, like pray that there would be workers, laborers, and just Jesus himself was sent, the Lord, for God so loved the world that he sent his son. So the Lord is about sending people because there's something about that human contact to share the gospel with. And you're giving up your time, which is our most valuable like asset that we have, that we're going to go or you're going to go and give up your time to go love on them, basically. Right. Yeah. And the pastor was encouraged. We hugged him and just encouraged him, and he invited us to his house. And that was another time I got emotional because they treated us like family and gave us food.
Do you know how he became a pastor, or how he became a Christ follower?
No, I didn't. We didn't talk about that. We were really just encouraging him. He was actually just beat up the day before, I believe, or just a few days before. And so, yeah, just, I mean, it's like a group of people just came. And so it was just like encouraging the church family and him. And so obviously we came after we left the church, we were coming down the hike and we're like, let the leeches bite us. We're okay. Let all this rough stuff happen. Right. It's all worth it. And
like your sacrifices that you had to go through
was
nothing in comparison.
Yeah, nothing at all. And like I mentioned, the monsoon season was coming, and there was a night that our tents were just kind of falling over. I remember I was sleeping and I just felt something hitting my face, and I just kind of opened my eyes. I noticed the tent was like falling over.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like water was just filling up our tent, but the heaviness of the water was just coming, pushing the tent down.
Oh, wow.
And so, and then, I mean, I had never experienced, first of all, we live in LA, so we don't experience rain so much, but that was incredible. It was like if buckets and buckets and buckets were just
I've
falling.
heard of that, but it's hard to comprehend unless you've seen it.
Yeah, and we had heard of landslides a couple thousands of miles away, but still you're like, oh, that could be us. And we were in...
were you guys up in the mountains or at the base of a mountain?
We were up in the mountain, and there were rice fields all over us, so it's like looking at tiers. We just thought, oh man, we're gonna slide and then slide and then slide all the way down.
Dang.
And so
it was probably a beautiful country, right?
It was beautiful. Like I said, you could see the Mount Everest in the background. Greenery everywhere. Beautiful. It was kind of, the mountain roads were pretty dangerous, but I would say as you're driving up there, you kind of forget the danger and you're looking, and it's just beautiful as you look at just everything. And then that was just another of the scary moments that when we had to leave, it was raining, so it was very muddy. And so as we were driving down the mountain,
and it's like a 1-lane road.
Yes. And there were cars were coming on opposite directions as well. So then it was, I honestly did like what every Christian would do: confess my sins. Lord, forgive me because I don't know what's going to happen.
This is it.
It's serious. And, and it was scary. One of the curves that we turned on, I saw the back of our car like kind of off the road because we were skidding. Like it was rainy, muddy. The roads were muddy, unleveled. And so I remember just kind of looking out the window, and I just saw like the tire was not on the road. The tire was just kind of floating.
And I bet you the driver from Nepal.
Yes, he was.
He probably was just like, wah.
Yeah, he was like, whatever. And we're all holding tight and asking for forgiveness for all of our sins. And I just, honestly, that's when I was like, Lord, why do we do this? Why?
Because you're putting, at that point now, you're putting your life at risk.
Yeah, and I just thought of my family. I don't think, I haven't told my family about this, so they're the first ones hearing it now. But because it was, I saw the cliff when we were turning that curve. And like I said, the tire was not on the road, and I just thought, oh my goodness, if we skid any stronger, the whole car is gonna go down.
But that kind of goes back to what you why you started doing missions. Living selflessly and kind of like not caring for yourself, but just it wasn't about you anymore. It was about the gospel and reaching others.
Yeah, and then
it's kind of like the early church and all the disciples. They gave their lives, they became martyrs for their faith.
Yeah, and you're truly placed in a position where you're like, your obedience reveals what you really believe about God. And so as you're up in the mountain, skidding, and it's obviously not you're this uber spiritual person. You're there and you're just like, okay, Lord, you called me to be here, and you're gonna do something. You're gonna protect us. You're gonna make a way. There was a big boulder that came down the road, so we had to wait for that to come down because it was raining. The mountain was unleveled, and it was just
intense.
It was intense. It was. It was probably the most dangerous trip I've been on, but it has been my most favorite trip because you just saw God's hand moving, but also you got to see people that had never heard the gospel before, that you were able to share the gospel with them for the first time. There's 3 billion people that have never heard the gospel.
3 billion?
3 billion. And out of the 3 billion...
a third of the world, right?
There's 7 billion people in the world.
There's 7? I thought it was over 8.
Are you going to do the math for us, Isaac?
So I was going to leave that for Isaac.
Look at my
you would have a calculator.
Even if I had a calculator, I'd probably still get it wrong.
It's almost half, right?
Yeah. Well, there's 7 billion people in the world. 3 billion that have never heard the gospel. Out of the 3 billion, 2 billion are in a place where they're unreached. In other words, there isn't a church around. There aren't missionaries like very accessible. Our money in the States or in general doesn't go necessarily to those 2 billion people. It goes to places where it's a bit safer, and so it's a big need. And so I know it was just exciting to be there.
I mean, there could be people here that haven't heard the gospel, right? Or is it like, when you say that, is it like you've never heard of Jesus? Because obviously there's people that know of Jesus and God in the United States, but there might be someone that could say, well, no one's ever told me.
Well, actually there are unreached people, but it's people that are coming from those countries here to the US. And there's a small percentage of that, but
I was just wondering how they, and it's not like it's an exact number, but it just goes to show that there's a lot of work to do.
There's exactly. And when I say those 2 billion that are 3 billion in total, but 2 billion that are in a place where for sure there's no church,
right?
Where for sure there isn't like maybe a Bible accessible to them, a bookstore, missionaries that are out there. Like here in the U.S., we have churches all around. So there's a way for people to hear about the gospel. But I'm talking about places where there aren't churches. There's just no way. Like you have to go over there to share the gospel. You have to send people to share with them. And so I think that was the exciting part of, wow, like we're actually being sent to a place and we're like, first we're being like firsthand representatives of the Lord as we share love to them, but then also through our words with the translator, obviously, to share the gospel. So I just thought that was a huge blessing. So,
and you've experienced this not only in Nepal but in other countries, correct?
But not to the extent of Nepal, where they had never heard the gospel and they had never encountered Christians before. That was the first time that it was that I guess deep in the sense of
remoteness of it,
remoteness and just where the people were at as far as knowing who the Lord was. And so so that was really, really interesting. Because you only hear of that, and to actually be there, and to live with them. And I think that was the neat part too, that we were able to live with them, eat with them, eat the foods that they eat, carry the babies with them. Yeah. And so when we left the village, it was really neat because we encountered weird stares at the beginning on Monday. And then by Friday, they made us a ceremony. They gave us buffalo milk.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was a blessing because buffalo to them is their life.
Sacred.
It's like their livelihood.
Oh, okay.
And
are they buffalo or the yaks?
No, buffalo. It was buffalo.
What's a yak?
I think it's a type. I don't know
if they make that noise.
Yak. No?
I don't know.
I guess we will do some editing on this one, maybe.
Keep the yak.
Told you guys I'm tired.
But so they gave us buffalo milk, and they gave us crowns of flowers, and like it was just a blessing to see. At least my desire was, okay, Lord, I just want to share your love. Like I'm going to, whatever you want me to do, hug the older ladies and clean the houses, whatever God wanted us to do. And thankfully it reflected because from the whole team, because they had a cute farewell ceremony for us. And
that showed that they not only appreciated, but that they felt the love that you guys were pouring on, because they were loving. That was their way of loving you back.
Loving us back.
That's sick.
They accepted us.
That's beautiful.
And, I mean, they did things for us during the week, like, after we didn't shower for a few days, we were like, you guys, we need water, and there just wasn't water. So the people in the village, as embarrassing as it was, they helped us get water. Like they had hose connected from one part of the village to the other side of the mountain, like hose connected by another hose, by another hose.
Wow.
And we were trying to be discreet with one of the girls. We were going to go early in the morning and see if there was a creek or something where we could at least wash our hair. And a village person saw somebody from the village, and we kind of said, oh, water, and hey, in their language, and pointing at the hose, and we're like, oh my goodness, we wanted to be discreet about this, they're not supposed to know we haven't showered. And so, but again, they just went out of their way eventually to, just to bless us. And it's like you were saying, like, you go there to bless, to be a blessing, but then you turn out to be the one blessed even more so
from them and what God does in that experience, or he reveals himself to you in maybe a new way or a different way.
Yeah.
So what's your mission life going to be like now?
So
what does it look like currently? What's the future hope for you?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because it's actually
hard-hitting questions. Can't do my math, but I'm going to ask a hell of a question.
There you go. Well, right now I'm actually in a transition from the office, working at the church office in the missions department, and just getting ready to do mission work in Spain. And it's something that the Lord has been working for 5 years in getting me to Spain. I had questions about Spain, because it's such a pretty country, and you don't really think of the mission field.
You're all, God, is this you or is this me?
Yeah, Lord, what is it? Tapas for me, or what's going on? But it took me a really long time to understand my misconception of missions. I thought it was mainly about third world countries and poverty, but the Lord was really showing me that it's not about the location, but about the people, and that hearts are hard, that the spiritual need is there. Europe is considered the forgotten mission field because it's not as it doesn't have that physical needs like a third world country would have.
Yeah.
Well, Spain is extremely religious.
They are, but interestingly enough, I was reading an article, 50 to 55% of the people are no longer attending church in general.
But they're probably still religious, though. Because they're Catholics, right?
They're Catholic, but nominal Catholic. So it's part of their culture.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
But a lot of them are moving towards atheism. So
really?
Yeah, and I just thought that was really interesting. And so there's 1.3% evangelical Christians. And so we kind of say the word evangelical there because they consider Jehovah's Witnesses Christians, Mormons Christians. They all kind of fall in the same category.
Right.
But for Spain, it's just,
which is not a lot.
1% of the. Yeah, there's 47 million people in Spain, and 1.3% are just evangelical Christians.
It's almost as big as LA.
So, what's the population in LA? Yeah, I'm just kidding.
36 million people currently.
What is it?
Not including.
Whatever it is.
Edit that part. No. Yeah. So anyway. So
we'll just edit me. I'll just delete my track.
So we were just. So anyway, the Lord was just kind of working in my heart.
What do you do?
So for 5 years, this is in the works of 5 years.
Yeah,
really?
I've been praying for 5 years, just to see, Lord, is this you? And then just the pastor and the church family over there just praying to see how God was going to put this together. And the purpose of what God has for me there is to help start a school. And in light of just such a small percentage of people being Christians, we were just praying that the school would be like a tool to get to the families, to the children. It's like you have to.
I feel like the Lord's calling me right now too. Go to Spain.
Oh, there you go. But you kind of have to find a creative way to share the gospel there because their hearts are so hard. And so
that's the thing about religion, man. That's like that's your home team, man. So I know just because I remember we've talked about it, Drew, when I shut you down because I told you I was a Catholic. So, but it's like it's a thing though, like it says, like I don't know. I guess with any religion, you're afraid to think.
Right.
To accept anything else.
Yeah, and then I think on top of that, when you think you're okay and you've been okay because you don't need it. Economically you're okay. I don't need a God. I don't need anybody to help me. And so then that's when that hard hearts
for sure.
are there. And so that's why they, like I mentioned, Europe is considered the forgotten mission field because you don't really think of the spiritual need. You kind of see that they're okay physically. So, we don't need to send teams out there because they don't need humanitarian aid or that kind of thing. But spiritually, they're in huge need of the gospel. And so, and then also just the kind of that generational gap of, the adults are not sharing about Christ to their kids, and then those kids grow up and they don't share about Christ to their kids, and so on and so forth. So we're praying that the school kind of cuts that gap, and so that we can kind of expose the kids to the gospel
Wow.
and the families.
Cool.
And then we'll see. And then if you look at Spain, and if you look at it in the map, you kind of see that it's kind of a strategic place. Like Africa is right below it. The rest of Europe is right above it. And then the Middle East is like directly across from it. And so one of the things I'm praying about is maybe the Lord using that as like a sending base to reach these places.
Yeah.
It's like it's close to where like the greatest part of the world where the unreached people are at too. And so it's just kind of like a neat place to kind of work from to send people out.
So when do you go there?
So, well, right now I'm transitioning out from my job, and then Lord willing next year, early spring. So right now I'm just preparing, getting the visa and working on the school stuff from here, trying to, helping out with that a little bit. And so, so I'm looking into maybe the early spring of next year. So
wow,
that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of scary, but exciting at the same time.
Have you ever lived away for an extended period of time?
No, just mission trips.
Yeah, it's like going on a mission trip, but you're never
a
coming back.
Term one, yeah.
It's a one-way ticket.
There you go, one-way ticket. And so that's kind of scary to think about. So I'm taking everything one step at a time and just kind of see what the Lord has.
Well, it's awesome that you're answering God's call. That God called you to do something, you listen, and you, like you said, you just gave yourself.
Yeah.
And if we could only do, more of us could, because, we all, like me, even myself, it's, what God wants you to do, but doing it is like the other part of it.
Yeah. And I think when you just kind of see what God has done, and just how he's led the way, it's like you can't help but say, okay, Lord, I kind of have to do it. You've been doing all of this for me.
Say like the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, right? It's like your spirit's like, and then you're like, what? I have to give up my job? Or you're like, oh no, wait.
Yeah.
How am I going to eat? Where am I going to live?
Right. But it's that whole thing of, your obedience really reveals what you believe about God. And if you believe he's going to provide, then you go for it. If you believe he's going to give you the strength for it, you go for it.
Pump me up, Zully.
Yeah, come on. Let's go. Cuba in February, relief trip to North Carolina.
Dang.
What is it? Let's
go
Florida,
Drew.
What
gas up the truck.
Do you have any advice or encouragement for someone maybe that's thinking about going on a missions trip or going into the field or just something, you know what I mean? Something for them to think about? Yeah.
I just would maybe encourage people to really think about the sending part of who the Lord is, like I said, for God so loved the world that he sent his son. And so, the Lord is in the business of sending. And so I would say, be willing to be sent, be willing to be also a sender, encourage those that are already going out, be a part of that. But I would say, no fear, stay close to the Lord, be obedient. And man, it's not boring to be a Christian. Like the Lord will totally blow your socks away when you actually allow the Lord to be the Lord, when you let God be the God who provides and the God who does miracles. I mean, you're going to say, why didn't I do this before? And so I would totally just say, just go for it. If the Lord is opening a door, don't think twice, Isaac. I'm just kidding.
And then also you kind of mentioned too, I think in the beginning about the persecuted church that's out there, and let's encourage people to keep those people in prayer.
Exactly.
That we can get so focused on ourselves and our family and our friends and all that's important, and we cry out to God for whatever it might be, but let's pray for the people that are actually giving their lives for the faith or getting persecuted.
And it's sometimes people say, Christians aren't meant to be suffering people, or why do we suffer and why, but then you think of the persecuted church that they're suffering for believing in the gospel, and they continue walking with the Lord, and it's their perspective of suffering is actually is very different. They're blessed if they're persecuted, and actually the Bible talks about that, and they believe it. They, it's like when the apostles were beaten, and then they said it for them it was an honor to be beaten for the cause of Christ. And so I think it's a huge gap between how we are in the U.S. and how the persecuted church is, and not to make us feel guilty, but I think it's just to make us, just have that perspective. Keep it in that perspective, right? That
definitely.
We need to pray for them because they're the true deal. Like they are Christians and they walk it and they believe it. And
if I get a flat tire, I start questioning my faith.
traffic, right?
Yeah.
Lord,
Why, Lord?
you're even there.
Yeah. So so it's a good just to keep that in mind, to keep them in prayer for
Definitely.
sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Zully, for coming on.
Thanks, Zully.
We appreciate it.
That was awesome.
Thank you guys.
We'll keep you in
so
prayer
much.
as your future endeavors come about, and hopefully you get out to Cuba again.
Yes.
And,
you're both invited.
Maybe I'll grace everybody with my presence.
Oh,
and have pork in all forms. Maybe you should stay back.
With that, everybody, just open your eyes, listen closely, soften your heart, and ask God to reveal himself to you.
Amen.